Amelia sat at the dinner table, her fork barely touching the food on her plate. The air in the room was heavy, thick with something unspoken. Across from her, Marcus leaned back in his chair, his voice loud and sharp, filling every corner of the dining room. His wife, Jenna, stayed quiet, pushing food around on her plate, while their 2 children looked back and forth between the adults with wide, unsure eyes. "You've stayed here long enough, Amelia," Marcus said, his tone carrying more bite than the words themselves. "You're 32 years old, not a child. How long do you plan on living off me?" Amelia looked at him but said nothing. She kept her face calm, her eyes steady, though inside her chest something tightened. She had heard worse before, and silence had become her shield. Marcus wasn't finished. "Honestly, it's embarrassing. A grown woman with no husband, no job, no future, sitting here every day like some burden. Do you enjoy sponging off other people?" He chuckled bitterly, as if his words were a joke for everyone to laugh at. No one laughed. The children lowered their eyes, confused by their father's harshness. Jenna opened her mouth as if to speak, then closed it again, her lips pressed into a thin line. She knew better than to interrupt Marcus when he was in one of his moods. Amelia swallowed, setting her fork down gently. Her calmness seemed to irritate Marcus even more. "Don't just sit there staring at me like that," he snapped. "Say something. Defend yourself if you can. Or maybe you can't because deep down you know I'm right." Still, Amelia said nothing. Marcus pushed back his chair suddenly, the legs scraping against the floor. In 2 steps he was beside her, his hand clamped around her arm, tight and unkind. Before anyone at the table could react, he yanked her up from her seat. "Get out," he barked. The children gasped, one of them starting to cry softly. Jenna half rose from her chair, but froze under Marcus's glare. Amelia's face remained calm, almost too calm, as she stumbled toward the doorway under his grip. Her silence seemed to carry more weight than shouting ever could. Marcus dragged her outside, opened the front door, and shoved her out into the cool night. The slam of the door behind her echoed in the stillness. She stood there on the porch, her arms sore from his grip, the laughter of neighbors faint in the distance, the stars staring down on her as if they too were witnesses. For a moment, she simply breathed, closing her eyes against the sting of humiliation. Inside, Marcus returned to the table as though nothing had happened. His children sat frozen, Jenna's eyes full of quiet disapproval. Yet no one spoke. Amelia, standing alone outside, lifted her chin and steadied her breath. She could walk away, she told herself. She could leave and never come back. But instead she remained still, strangely calm, as if she knew something Marcus did not. Why would a brother treat his sister this way? And why did Amelia, humiliated and cast out, stand in silence, almost too calm, as if holding on to a secret she was not ready to reveal? Once a successful corporate worker, Amelia had built a life she was proud of. She was hardworking, focused, and respected in her field. She had her own apartment, a car, and a steady income that gave her comfort and independence. For years, she thought she had it all figured out, until her marriage unraveled in the most painful way. Her husband, charming on the outside but cunning within, slowly chipped away at everything she had built. He convinced her to invest in his business ideas, persuading her that they were building a future together. Amelia trusted him, not realizing he was manipulating her, moving assets under his name, and setting traps in their joint accounts. By the time she discovered the truth, it was too late. The divorce left her with almost nothing. He walked away richer, while she walked away broken. Amelia returned to the family home, not out of choice but necessity. She needed time to heal, to find her footing again. The house was her parents' old home, filled with memories of warmth and love. What no one knew, not even Marcus, was that years ago, after their parents passed, Amelia had quietly bought the property from the estate. She had wanted to keep the home in the family, to honor their mother's wish that the house never be lost. But Amelia, private and humble, never announced this. She let Marcus live under the illusion that it was still their parents' home, perhaps even his by birthright as the first son. Marcus carried that belief heavily. From childhood, he had always felt Amelia was the favorite. Their mother often praised Amelia's gentle spirit, her discipline, her achievements at school. Marcus, who struggled with his studies and often got into trouble, grew up with a chip on his shoulder. That bitterness followed him into adulthood, shaping the way he treated his sister. He told himself he was the one who carried the family name, the one who had to hold things together. Yet inside he always feared Amelia was still ahead of him in some invisible race. Now, with Amelia back in the house, his old jealousy found new fuel. Marcus believed she was freeloading, taking advantage of him and his generosity. What he never admitted, even to himself, was that he was also struggling. His job barely covered the bills, and debt quietly ate away at him. He saw Amelia's presence not only as a burden, but also as a reminder of his own failures. Instead of showing her compassion, he lashed out, using cruelty to mask his insecurity. Jenna, his wife, saw through it. She had married Marcus knowing his temper, but she never imagined he could be so harsh toward his own sister. Jenna often kept quiet during these tense moments, not wanting to challenge him in front of the children. But deep down she disagreed with the way he treated Amelia. She saw the pain in Amelia's eyes, the quiet strength in her silence, and it made her uneasy. The children, innocent and confused, could not understand why their father was so angry with their aunt. To them, Amelia was kind and gentle, someone who told them stories and listened to their little troubles. They looked up to her, and Marcus's hostility only made them more uncertain. For Amelia, every day in the house was a battle, not with fists or loud words, but with patience. She fought for her self-respect in the face of humiliation. She reminded herself that she was not defined by her divorce, not destroyed by her loss. She had survived, and survival itself was a quiet victory. But Marcus fought a different battle. He wanted control, authority, the final word. To him, the house symbolized power. If Amelia remained there, calm and steady, it threatened the fragile image he tried to build as the head of the family. He wanted her gone, not just because of pride, but because he feared her presence exposed his weakness. In this quiet war, Amelia held a secret that could end everything. The truth that the house was hers. The deed had her name on it. She could, at any moment, reveal it and silence Marcus once and for all. But she didn't. She remembered her mother's words, spoken softly before her passing. Keep this home safe. Don't let it tear you apart. And so Amelia stayed silent, allowing Marcus to believe he was in control, while she carried the burden of truth alone. The stakes grew heavier each day. Amelia wanted peace, dignity, and the chance to rebuild her life without shame. Marcus wanted dominance, respect, and the illusion that he was the one holding the family together. Jenna watched quietly, torn between loyalty to her husband and compassion for her sister-in-law. The children looked on, confused, learning far too early what bitterness between siblings could look like. In the middle of it all, Amelia's calm silence held power, though Marcus mistook it for weakness. She knew the day would come when silence would no longer be enough, but for now she endured, waiting for the right moment to show that she was not the burden he claimed she was, but the keeper of the very home he thought belonged to him. Amelia, humiliated, spends the night outside before a friend picks her up the next morning. She had no bag, no blanket, only her thoughts and the sting of her brother's hand on her arm. The cool night air bit at her skin, but the deeper pain was inside. How Marcus had dragged her out like she was nothing, while his wife and children watched in silence. When her friend arrived at dawn, Amelia gave a weak smile, as though nothing had happened. She didn't explain much, only asked to be taken somewhere safe. The car ride was quiet, her friend glancing at her from time to time, waiting for words that never came. Amelia kept her eyes on the window, her face calm but her heart heavy. That day, she thought of leaving for good. She could pack her few things and disappear, rent a small room, and try to rebuild her life in peace. It would mean cutting ties, walking away from Marcus, and letting him have his way. For a moment, it almost felt easier to do that. But then, as she sat in her friend's guest room, a memory came to her. It was of her mother, lying weak in her final days, her voice soft but urgent. "Amelia, promise me you'll keep the house safe. This home must never be lost. It is our legacy, our heart. Protect it." Amelia had promised, and she had kept that promise by secretly buying the house after her parents' death, making sure no one outside the family could ever claim it. Remembering her mother's words now, Amelia realized that walking away would mean breaking that promise. She couldn't allow Marcus to destroy what her mother had begged her to preserve. The next evening, Amelia returned quietly, standing at a distance from the house. The lights were on, laughter spilling out from the open windows. Marcus was hosting a gathering, boasting loudly to friends and relatives who had come by. Amelia lingered near the doorway, unnoticed, listening as his voice carried across the room. "This house," Marcus declared, raising his glass, "is mine to manage. It's too big for just us, and it's time to move forward. I've been talking to some buyers. Selling it will bring in good money, and I'll finally be able to clear a few debts and invest in new plans. It's time to stop holding on to the past." Gasps and murmurs filled the room. Some nodded in agreement, others looked surprised. Jenna sat silently, her face tight with worry, but she said nothing. Amelia's chest tightened. She felt her mother's words like an echo in her ears, heavy and alive. Keep the house safe. For Marcus, it was just a building, a way to escape his hidden debts. For Amelia, it was her parents' memory, her family's root, a symbol of everything her mother and father had worked for. To lose it would mean erasing them. Her first instinct was to walk away again, to let him brag, to let him make his choices. But as she watched, as she heard him laugh and call himself the rightful owner, something shifted inside her. She could no longer stay silent. Silence had protected her dignity so far. It had kept her from fighting openly with Marcus. But now silence meant betrayal. Betrayal of her mother's trust, of her own heart, of the truth she carried. Standing outside, her fists clenched at her sides, Amelia knew a decision had been made. She would not let Marcus sell the house. She would not let him erase their family's legacy for his pride and greed. For the first time in years, Amelia felt the weight of her voice returning. She no longer saw silence as strength. Now, strength meant speaking, revealing the truth, and protecting what was hers to guard. She stepped back from the doorway into the cool night, her mind clear. Tomorrow, Marcus would learn that the house he claimed as his was never his at all. And for the first time since her humiliation, Amelia felt a quiet fire burn in her chest. She was ready. Amelia confronts Marcus privately the next morning. She found him alone in the living room, sipping coffee and scrolling through his phone. Her voice was calm, but there was firmness in it. "Marcus," she began, standing across from him. "I heard what you said last night, about selling the house. You can't do that." Marcus looked up slowly, his face twisted into a smirk. "Can't? Don't tell me what I can't do, Amelia. This is my house, my responsibility. You should be grateful I've let you stay this long." "It's not yours to sell," she said, her tone steady but low. "You're making a mistake." He set his cup down with a sharp clink and leaned back in his chair, laughing bitterly. "A mistake? No, Amelia. The mistake was letting you come back here. You think you can lecture me? You, the woman who couldn't even hold her marriage together? The one who lost everything and crawled back home like a child." Amelia felt the sting, but she didn't flinch. "Marcus, I'm warning you, don't do this." He stood up, stepping close, his voice dropping to a hiss. "Or what? You'll run to your little friends and cry? Let me tell you something, Amelia. You have no power here. You're nothing without me. And if you don't like it, you can leave. In fact, maybe I'll make sure you leave. Permanently." His eyes burned with a cruel satisfaction, as if he enjoyed watching her hold her pain in silence. Later that week, Marcus took his cruelty further. He gathered relatives for a small get-together and, with a mocking smile, began weaving stories about Amelia. He told them she had wasted her money, that she was reckless and unstable, that she depended on others because she couldn't stand on her own 2 feet. "She's always been like this," he said loudly so everyone could hear. "Weak, fragile. Honestly, I think she's still not right in the head after that divorce. But don't worry, I'm taking care of her for now." The relatives murmured in shock, some shaking their heads with pity, others nodding as if his words confirmed old suspicions. Amelia sat quietly in the corner, her face calm, her heart burning. Every lie was another dagger, but she swallowed her anger, refusing to give him the satisfaction of seeing her break. Jenna watched it all with growing unease. She saw the way Amelia's shoulders stiffened, the way she held her silence like a shield. Later that night, Jenna slipped into Amelia's room. "I'm sorry," she whispered, her eyes full of guilt. "I don't agree with what Marcus is doing. You don't deserve this." Amelia's eyes softened. "Thank you," she said quietly. "But he's your husband. I don't want you caught in the middle." Jenna hesitated. "He keeps reminding me that I have to stand by him, no matter what. But sometimes I wonder if standing by him means turning my back on what's right. Amelia gave a small, sad smile. That's a choice only you can make. The days that followed grew worse. Marcus, sensing that Amelia's silence was a kind of strength, decided to crush it. He changed the locks on the doors and told everyone that Amelia had finally left because she couldn't handle her own failures. When Amelia returned and found herself locked out, she stood outside the gate, her belongings thrown into a box beside the doorstep. Neighbors watched as Marcus raised his voice at her in front of everyone. You're not welcome here anymore. Go find someone else to pity you. This isn't a charity house. The humiliation was sharp, cutting deeper than before. Children peered from windows, relatives whispered behind their hands, and Amelia stood in the middle of it all, her face still calm though her heart felt like it was breaking. That night, she sat at her friend's place again, staring at the ceiling, fighting tears that refused to fall. In her mind, she saw flashes of the past, her mother's gentle smile, her father's warm laugh, the days when she and Marcus had been children playing in the yard. But she also remembered the rivalry, Marcus snatching toys from her, accusing their mother of loving Amelia more, sulking whenever she succeeded. Now, that same bitterness had grown into a man who would rather destroy his sister than admit his own weaknesses. Amelia felt the crushing weight of injustice. She had lost so much already, her marriage, her career, her savings, and now her own brother was trying to strip away her dignity. She thought of revealing the truth, of showing everyone the deed with her name on it, proving once and for all that she was not the weak woman Marcus painted her to be. But each time she imagined it, she also imagined the fallout, relatives taking sides, the family breaking apart, her mother's memory tainted by ugly fights. Amelia's silence was no longer just about pride. It was about protecting what little was left of their family bond. Still, Marcus pushed harder. At another family gathering, he went further than ever. In front of uncles, aunts, cousins, and neighbors, he called Amelia a shame and a parasite. He laughed cruelly, reminding everyone of her failed marriage, telling them she had begged him for shelter. Jenna sat frozen, her eyes wet, unable to defend Amelia in front of so many people. The children looked away, their faces pale with confusion and sadness. Amelia stood there, her heart pounding, her fists trembling at her sides. Her silence felt heavier than ever, like a stone she could no longer carry. She wanted to scream the truth, to end the lies, to stop Marcus from crushing her spirit in front of the whole world. But she held it in, just barely, her calm face hiding the storm inside. She knew the moment was coming when she would no longer be able to stay silent. One more humiliation, one more betrayal, and she would finally break her silence. Not for revenge, but for justice, for dignity, and for the promise she had made to her mother. And when that moment came, Marcus would learn the truth he had mocked for so long. Amelia was not the weak one. She was the one holding the real power all along. At the height of conflict, Marcus called a family meeting. He wanted everyone, relatives, neighbors, even close friends, to witness his big decision. The living room was packed, the air thick with murmurs and curiosity. Amelia sat quietly near the back, her hands folded on her lap, her face unreadable. Marcus stood in the center like a king addressing his court. His voice was loud, commanding, dripping with pride. As the first son, he began, it has always been my duty to manage this family's property, and after much thought, I have decided it is time to sell the house. A wave of whispers spread through the room. Some people gasped, others nodded, already calculating what the money could mean. Jenna lowered her eyes, her face pale, while the children clutched at her dress, sensing something was wrong. Marcus lifted his chin, enjoying the attention. This house has served us well, but it's too old, too heavy to maintain. I've already spoken with a buyer. The money will secure a better future for me, for my family, and for all of us in some way. We must move forward instead of clinging to the past. He paused, expecting applause. Instead, silence filled the room. And then, for the first time in weeks, Amelia spoke. Her voice was calm but cut through the silence like a blade. This house isn't yours to sell, Marcus. All eyes turned to her. Marcus froze, his smirk faltering for a second. What did you just say? He asked, his voice shaking slightly. Amelia stood, her posture straight, her eyes clear. I said this house isn't yours to sell. It's mine. The room erupted in gasps. Relatives exchanged confused glances. Neighbors leaned forward, eager to hear more. Marcus let out a loud, bitter laugh. Yours? Don't be ridiculous. You've been living here like a guest. What proof do you have? You're nothing but a squatter under my roof. Amelia didn't flinch. She reached into her bag and pulled out a folder, her hands steady. She opened it and held up the legal documents. Title deeds signed and sealed, with her name clearly written as the sole owner. The room fell silent again, heavier this time. The papers glimmered under the light, undeniable proof. This house, Amelia said, her voice calm and strong, was bought by me after our parents passed. I made sure it stayed in the family, just like Mother wanted. Every brick, every wall, every memory belongs to me. You never had the right to sell it. Jaws dropped. The relatives began to murmur louder now, their eyes darting between Marcus and Amelia. Some looked at Amelia with newfound respect. Others looked at Marcus with pity or judgment. Marcus's face turned red. This is a lie, he shouted, stepping forward. She forged those papers. She's trying to humiliate me in front of you all. Don't believe her. But no one spoke up for him. The documents were too clear, too real. Jenna's hands trembled as she took a closer look at the papers. Tears welled in her eyes. She turned to Marcus slowly, her voice barely above a whisper. Marcus, it's true. It's her name, not yours. The children stared at their father, confusion and hurt on their small faces. One of them whispered, Daddy, why did you lie? Marcus's pride crumbled in front of everyone. He tried to laugh it off, then tried to argue, but every word made him look smaller. Relatives shook their heads, whispering to one another. Some were angry at his lies, others embarrassed for him. Amelia stood tall, not gloating, not mocking, just calm. She looked at her brother, her voice soft but firm. Do you know why I never said anything before? It wasn't because I was weak. It wasn't because I was afraid. It was because I wanted to protect you. I didn't want you to feel less as the first son. I thought keeping the truth quiet would keep peace between us. I wanted to preserve the family bond, even if it meant you mocking me, humiliating me. Her words cut deeper than any proof. Marcus's face twisted with shame, his hands clenching at his sides. He had spent years tearing her down, only to discover that she had been shielding him all along. The relatives looked at Amelia with admiration now. Some even nodded in approval, touched by her strength and patience. Jenna wiped her eyes, her voice trembling. Amelia, I had no idea. You've shown more love and grace than any of us. Marcus stood frozen, unable to meet anyone's eyes. The weight of humiliation pressed down on him. And for the first time he looked small, not the powerful first son he always claimed to be, but a man stripped bare by his own pride. The meeting ended not with Marcus's victory, but with Amelia's truth. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Her calmness, her quiet dignity, and the simple power of the truth spoke louder than anything Marcus could ever say. In that moment, the family saw her not as the burden Marcus painted her to be, but as the keeper of the home, the true protector of their parents' legacy. And Marcus, surrounded by his wife, children and relatives, was left to face the painful truth that his ego had destroyed the very respect he had been fighting so hard to claim. Amelia reclaims her dignity the moment the truth is out. She stands tall in front of everyone, her voice calm but strong. I will not be disrespected anymore, she says clearly. The words hang heavy in the room, and no one dares to challenge her. For the first time in years, Amelia feels the weight lift off her shoulders. She is no longer silent, no longer hiding. Marcus lowers his head, shame burning his face. The relatives look at him with disappointment, and even his children avoid his eyes. His image as the proud first son has crumbled. He knows it, and everyone else knows it too. But Amelia does something no one expects. She turns to Marcus and his family, her tone softer now. I'm not going to throw you out, she says. This is still our family home. You can stay here. But from now on there must be respect. No insults, no lies, no cruelty. If we are to live under the same roof, then there must be peace. The room is silent again, but this time with respect. Her strength is not in revenge, but in mercy. She chooses dignity over anger. Later that evening, Jenna comes to Amelia privately. She looks nervous, her hands clasped together, her eyes wet. Amelia, she begins, her voice low. I want to apologize. I should have defended you. I should have spoken up sooner. I saw how wrong Marcus was, but I stayed silent because I was afraid. Still, you showed patience. You showed kindness. Thank you for that." Amelia gives her a gentle smile. "It's not too late, Jenna. What matters is what we choose from here on. I don't want bitterness to eat this family. Let's make this house a place where we can all breathe again." Jenna nods, tears slipping down her cheeks. "I promise. And I'm grateful for everything." Meanwhile, Marcus sits alone in his room, the documents and Amelia's words still ringing in his ears. For the first time, he has nothing to hide behind. No lies, no authority, no pride to protect him. He sees the truth. His ego destroyed trust, his bitterness pushed his sister away, and his cruelty poisoned his own household. The realization cuts deep. He thinks of his children, who looked at him with confusion and hurt. He thinks of Jenna, who could no longer defend his actions. And he thinks of Amelia, who even after everything, chose not to shame him but to offer mercy. Marcus has no words left. He can only sit in silence, facing the heavy weight of his actions. In the days that follow, the house begins to change. The whispers of relatives fade, and Amelia begins to rebuild her life with a new sense of strength. She no longer hides who she is or what she owns. She takes steps toward finding work again, meeting with old contacts and looking for opportunities. Each day her confidence grows. The house feels different too. The tension is still there, but lighter now. Marcus is quieter, humbled. Jenna shows Amelia more warmth, often helping her with meals or small chores. The children slowly return to Amelia's side, asking her for stories again, their trust rebuilding. Amelia walks through the rooms one evening, her heart steady. She touches the walls, the old photographs, the wooden banister her father once polished. For the first time in a long time, she feels at peace. She has kept her mother's promise. She has kept the house safe, not just the building, but the spirit within it. She knows the journey isn't over. Marcus has much to learn, and wounds take time to heal. But she also knows she has done what she needed to do. She has reclaimed her dignity, drawn her boundaries, and shown her strength. Amelia is no longer the silent woman who endured cruelty without protest. She is the woman who stood up, spoke her truth, and protected her family's legacy. And in doing so, she has found the power to rebuild not only her life, but also her spirit. Amelia sits in the quiet living room of the house, the evening light falling softly through the curtains. The noise of the past days has faded, leaving only silence and the gentle hum of the night outside. She looks around the room, the old furniture, the photographs on the wall, the familiar scent of home, and feels a wave of peace wash over her. Her thoughts drift to her mother, to the memory of her voice in those final days. "Keep the house safe, Amelia. Don't let it be lost." The words echo in her heart as if her mother is still here, watching over her. Amelia closes her eyes, takes a deep breath, and whispers into the quiet, "I kept it safe." The simple words carry the weight of everything she has endured, the humiliation, the silence, the strength it took to finally stand up. She smiles faintly, not out of pride, but out of relief. The house is still here, untouched, protected. The legacy of her parents remains alive within its walls. She has not only kept the house safe, she has kept herself safe. She has refused to be erased, refused to live in shame, refused to let cruelty define her. For the first time in a long while, Amelia feels free. Not free from responsibility, but free from the weight of silence. She has spoken her truth, drawn her boundaries, and taken her place with dignity. The house is quiet, but it no longer feels empty. It feels strong like her. Amelia rises slowly, her head high, and walks to the window. The night sky stretches wide above her, full of stars. She does not know what tomorrow will bring, but she knows one thing for certain. She will face it with strength. Justice has been served. The legacy is preserved. And Amelia, no longer silent, will live with dignity. Hey friends, thanks so much for staying till the end. Don't forget to like, share your thoughts in the comments, and hit that subscribe button for more. See you next time. 2 hearts.